people jumping out. People just kept jumping and jumping and jumping. And you could still see they were alive because they were flailing around.
The FBI has already stepped in to investigate. It could be possibly a terrorist strike.
It could be. It could be because the first one went off and then 10 minutes later this just blew up out of nowhere.
Hard to think that that would just be accidental.
No, I don't think it would be accidental.
Back it up, folks. Back it up.
Kenny?
Johanneman.
Spell your name.
Johannenenn.
And you were working there?
Yes, I was right there.
Eyewitness
I was down in the
telling what
basement.
he saw, a huge fireball at the World Trade Center as two planes slammed into the side of these twin towers in the bottom of Manhattan. The security personnel were trying to move them along. The streets of New York are being cleared, possibly for fear that the second twin tower will come down. Earlier we saw one of the towers collapse in an enormous thud of debris and smoke. It's an extremely dangerous situation still in the scenes in the streets of New York. In Washington, meanwhile, there's been an attack just near the Pentagon. These are pictures of New York. You can see FBI personnel trying to clear the streets. The FBI are investigating these attacks. The US President has said that those responsible will be hunted down and brought to justice. But that's a long way off yet. At the moment, the most important thing is simply trying to stabilize the situation, putting out the fires, and helping the many hundreds of people who have been caught up in one of the most audacious attacks in the United States. You can see just how upset and shocked people are. It happened at one of the busiest times.
Bang! And then we saw smoke coming out, and everybody started running out, and we saw the plane on the other side of the building, and there was smoke everywhere, and people are jumping out the windows. Over there, they're jumping out the windows, I guess because they're trying to save themselves. I don't know. And I don't know, everybody just doesn't know where to go. They won't let, everything is blocked off. You can't even, they're telling us to get out, but there's nowhere to go. And then I heard that another plane hit, and if you go over by there, you can see the people jumping out the window. They're jumping out the window right now. Oh my God.
All right, ma'am, thank you.
The panic of an eyewitness at the World Trade Center, talking about people jumping out of the windows of the World Trade Center to try and escape the collapsing World Trade Center as a result of two suicide plane attacks. Joining us from Washington is Stephen Speech. There's also been an attack near to the Pentagon, the U.S. Defense Headquarters. Stephen, what can you tell us?
It seems that a large aircraft, it's being described as an airliner, crashed into just near the Pentagon, near the west side of the Pentagon, near a helicopter launch pad, or on a helicopter launch pad. There was a big explosion. Eyewitnesses and officials say they were thrown to the ground by the force of the blast. It appears there have been some injuries. One news agency, AFP, is talking about 7 injuries. No reports of any fatalities from that incident here in Washington. But the Pentagon's been evacuated, the White House evacuated, and various other government buildings. So a sense of great shock and great alertness here in Washington.
And presumably all the airports in the United States have been grounded as a result of this. 3 planes apparently hijacked.
Well, certainly, yes, at least one of them hijacked, we think. And yes, commercial flights have been completely suspended throughout the country. And we're also getting reports that Virgin Atlantic have cancelled their flights actually into the country. So it seems that international flights may also be affected. I mean, it's hard to overstate the magnitude of this, both in terms of the terrible tragedy in New York, and also just in terms of the symbolic power of these attacks on such prominent targets by some very, very determined people.
Stephen Speech in Washington. So at least one of the planes that went into the World Trade Center appears to have been hijacked. We don't really know much about the other 2. There's been an attack on the other World Trade Center and also the Pentagon, near to the Pentagon in Washington, the defense headquarters. Who is responsible? That is still unclear. The Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine have denied being behind the attack.
The DFLP has no relation to this accident or this incident. We have always been against terroristic actions. against civilian targets, and especially outside the occupied territories. But in spite of that, we deny our responsibility, but we call upon the American administration to review their attitude and their policy towards the Palestinian question, because this policy arouses the anger and the hatred of our people and of all Arab and Islamic peoples, and it's liable actually to harm the interests of the United States in our region, and therefore it has to be reviewed.
Denial from the Palestinian group, the DFLP, that it was responsible for attacking the World Trade Center. We've also got reports coming through that a car bomb has exploded outside the State Department in Washington. That's according to senior law enforcement officials. Let me just remind you, there have been several attacks on the nerve centers of the US administration. We're looking at pictures from New York of the World Trade Center, which at 9 a.m. this morning came under attack by 2 planes. You can see the fire engines there trying to put out the fire. It's been raging for over an hour at the moment, and still no sign of it coming under control. The first plane went in at about 9 o'clock. A short while later, another aircraft appears to have crashed near the Pentagon in Washington. The White House and Capitol in Washington have been evacuated. These are apparently terrorist attacks. That's what the US President George Bush called them. A US official, citing a transmission from one of the planes, said that the first plane that crashed into the World Trade Center was hijacked after takeoff from Boston. The Federal Aviation Authority has grounded all planes for the moment and closed all airports. All the major road links into New York have also been closed. We have no word yet at the moment on the extent of injuries from the attacks. This report from Mike Wooldridge.
This was the second of the 2 explosions. A plane comes in from the right of the picture and appears to be about to pass behind the South Tower. Next comes a huge explosion with debris showering out from the tower and down towards the streets below. The upper floors of this tower then become immediately obscured by the billowing smoke. This was just a few minutes after there'd been another explosion near the top of the North Tower. Eyewitnesses said this tower appeared to be struck by a plane that came in low and then hit the building at a slight angle. Again, within seconds, the upper floors were consumed by flames and smoke. As panic erupted at ground level in New York's financial center at the start of the business day, the city and the country tried to make sense of it. Many of those who'd seen it happen said they were assuming these were planes that had flown deliberately into the 2 landmark buildings. It was simply hard to believe otherwise. The aircraft seemed to make no attempt to swerve away from the towers. As news of the casualties began to come in, the administration firmed up this growing belief that it seemed to be a terrorist attack. The FBI said it was investigating reports that 2 planes had been hijacked before the attack. And then, as New Yorkers were watching it all happen again, the towers were struck by bombers in 1993. Less than an hour later came unconfirmed reports that something similar may have happened at the Pentagon in Washington. There were reports of an explosion at the heart of the US defense establishment, and this was the scene afterwards. The White House was evacuated too. Mike Wooldridge, BBC News.
So these are the pictures now. It's Nick Gowing replacing Nisha Pillay, and you can see still the plumes of smoke. We do have news that a car bomb has exploded outside the State Department. Most offices of state in Washington have now been evacuated. The Pentagon is now very much subject to a major fire and emergency alert. There you have pictures in downtown New York. In the area, I think, from what I can see, near the World Trade Center, one of the towers has collapsed. Both towers have now collapsed. We gather this is within about an hour and a half of the towers being hit by a hijacked plane, which has been confirmed as an American Airlines plane, which had set off from Boston bound for Los Angeles.